Most people think happiness is something you find. What if the real reason happiness feels so hard to hold on to is because you're unknowingly practicing habits that push it away every day? Think about the last time you felt genuinely happy. Not distracted, not entertained, actually happy. Chances are the feeling didn't last as long as you wanted it to. A stressful email arrived. A problem showed up. Your mind found something to worry about, and before you knew it, that feeling was gone. Most people spend years chasing happiness as if it lives somewhere outside of them. They tell themselves they'll finally be happy when they make more money, lose weight, find the right relationship, or achieve some future goal. But what if happiness isn't something you chase? What if it's something you naturally create through a few simple daily habits? By the end of this video, you'll learn 3 habits that make happiness come naturally. These habits are backed by psychology, simple enough to start today, and powerful enough to change the way your brain experiences everyday life. And the last habit might surprise you the most because it has nothing to do with positive thinking, motivation, or forcing yourself to be happy. In fact, it's something most people completely overlook. Here's something interesting. Researchers have repeatedly found that our brains are naturally wired to pay more attention to problems than positive experiences. Thousands of years ago, that helped humans survive. Spotting danger mattered more than appreciating a beautiful sunset. But in modern life, this survival system often keeps us stuck focusing on stress, mistakes, and worries. The result? Even when life is going well, your brain can make it feel like something is missing. That's why happiness often feels temporary. It's not because you're doing something wrong. It's because your brain is running on default settings. The good news is that habits can change those settings. Small actions, repeated consistently, can teach your brain to notice more of what's good, appreciate more of what already exists, and create positive emotions without forcing them. So here is exactly how this works. Habit number 1. Collecting small wins. This sounds almost too simple to matter, and that's exactly why most people ignore it. Most people think happiness comes from big moments, getting promoted, buying a house, finding the right relationship, reaching a major goal they've been working toward for years. And those moments absolutely can make you happy. The problem is that they don't happen very often. If your brain only allows itself to feel successful when something huge happens, you're basically training yourself to spend most of your life waiting for the next achievement, waiting for the next milestone, waiting for some future version of life where happiness finally arrives. But happiness doesn't usually disappear because your life is bad. It disappears because your brain becomes blind to progress. Think about it. A year ago, some of the things you do every day were goals. Maybe you wanted to become more confident. Maybe you wanted better habits. Maybe you wanted more discipline, better health, or more stability. Now, those things feel normal. Your brain adapted. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation. It's your brain's tendency to quickly get used to positive changes and stop noticing them. And while that ability helped humans survive, it creates a modern problem. Your brain constantly moves the finish line. You achieve something, you feel good for a moment, then your mind immediately asks, what's next? What's still missing? What problem should I focus on now? And before you know it, you're overlooking dozens of positive things happening in your life every day. This is where collecting small wins changes everything. Instead of waiting for happiness to arrive through a huge achievement, you deliberately teach your brain to notice evidence that life is already moving in the right direction. Every small win becomes proof that you're growing, proof that you're improving, proof that you're making progress. And your brain loves progress. Researchers have found that even small experiences of progress trigger dopamine release in the brain, not because you've reached the finish line, but because your brain recognizes movement towards something meaningful. In other words, your brain doesn't only reward success, it rewards progress. Here's a simple example. Imagine 2 people who both decide to start exercising. The first person focuses only on the final goal, losing weight, getting fit, looking different. Because those results take time, they spend weeks feeling like nothing is happening. The second person celebrates small wins. They showed up today. They completed the workout. They were slightly stronger than last week. Every session feels like progress. Guess which person is more likely to stay motivated? The second person. Not because they're more disciplined, because their brain is receiving consistent evidence that they're moving forward, and that evidence creates positive emotion. Now, here's your action for today. Before you go to bed tonight, write down 3 small wins from your day. Not 3 amazing accomplishments, not 3 life-changing moments, just 3 small wins. Maybe you drank more water than usual. Maybe you answered an email you've been avoiding. Maybe you spent 10 minutes reading. Maybe you took a walk. Maybe you stayed calm when you normally would have become frustrated. Anything counts. The goal isn't to impress anyone. The goal is to train your brain to notice progress. And here's the key. Be specific. Don't write, "I had a good day." Write, "I finished that project I've been putting off. I went outside for a walk. I called a friend." The more specific the memory, the stronger the emotional impact. Over time, something fascinating starts to happen. Your brain begins looking for wins automatically. Instead of scanning the day for problems, it starts scanning for progress. Instead of asking, "What's wrong with my life?" it begins asking, "What's going well?" And that subtle shift changes how you experience everyday life. Because happiness isn't only created by what happens to you, it's heavily influenced by what your brain chooses to notice. And once your brain starts noticing progress more often, happiness begins to feel a lot more natural. But this next habit takes that idea even further, because noticing good things is powerful. Yet there's something even more important than what you notice. It's the meaning your brain gives to those experiences. And once you understand this next habit, you'll never look at ordinary moments the same way again. Habit number 2. Savoring good moments. Most people don't have a happiness problem. They have an attention problem. Think about it. Something good happens during your day. Maybe someone gives you a compliment. You finish an important task. You share a laugh with a friend. For a brief moment, you feel good. But then your attention immediately moves somewhere else, back to your phone, back to your worries, back to the next thing on your to-do list. The positive moment disappears almost as quickly as it arrived. The reason this happens is because your brain has a built-in negativity bias. Researchers have found that negative experiences naturally grab more of our attention than positive ones. One awkward conversation can stay in your mind for hours, while a dozen good moments fade away within minutes. This was useful thousands of years ago when paying attention to danger helped humans survive, but in modern life, it often causes us to overlook many of the experiences that could make us feel happier. That's where savoring comes in. Savoring simply means slowing down and fully experiencing a positive moment while it's happening. Instead of rushing past it, you stay with it for a little longer. Researchers have found that when people deliberately focus on a positive experience for around 15 to 20 seconds, the brain is more likely to store it in long-term memory. In other words, the experience doesn't just happen, it stays with you. Here's your action. Today, when something good happens, don't immediately move on. Pause for 20 seconds. Notice how it feels. If someone compliments you, let yourself enjoy it. If you accomplish something meaningful, take a moment to appreciate your effort. If you're having a peaceful moment, be fully present instead of reaching for your phone. 20 seconds may seem small, but those extra seconds tell your brain something important. This matters. Remember this. And when your brain starts remembering more positive experiences, happiness stops feeling like something you have to chase. It becomes something that naturally shows up more often in your everyday life. But the next habit is where things get really interesting. Because happiness isn't only influenced by what happens to you, it's also influenced by the people you spend the most time around. Habit number 3. Spend more time looking forward to things. This might sound surprisingly simple, But one of the fastest ways to create more happiness is to give your brain something positive to anticipate. Most people think happiness only comes from experiences themselves, a vacation, a weekend trip, meeting a friend, reaching a goal. But researchers have discovered something fascinating. A large part of happiness actually comes before the event ever happens. It comes from anticipation. Think about the excitement you feel before a holiday, the feeling before meeting someone you care about, the days leading up to a special event you've been waiting for. Nothing has happened yet, and yet you're already happier. That's because your brain doesn't just react to positive experiences, it also responds to the expectation of positive experiences. When you have something enjoyable to look forward to, your brain begins releasing feel-good chemicals long before the event arrives. In fact, some studies suggest that anticipation can sometimes create as much happiness as the experience itself. The problem is that many people accidentally stop giving themselves things to look forward to. Life becomes a cycle of work, responsibilities, and routines. Monday feels like Tuesday. Tuesday feels like Wednesday. Weeks pass without anything exciting on the horizon. And when your brain has nothing positive to anticipate, everyday life can start to feel flat and repetitive. This doesn't mean you need expensive vacations or major life changes. The secret is creating small future moments that your mind can look forward to. A coffee date with a friend, watching your favorite movie on Friday night, trying a new restaurant, going for a walk in a place you've never visited, reading a chapter of a book you're excited about. Even something small can give your brain a positive target to move toward. Here's your action. Before the end of today, schedule one thing you genuinely look forward to within the next 7 days. It doesn't need to be big, it just needs to be real. Then spend a few moments imagining yourself enjoying it. Picture the conversation, picture the experience, picture how you'll feel. That simple act gives your brain something positive to anticipate. And when you make this a habit, something interesting begins to happen. Instead of constantly focusing on problems, your mind starts scanning for possibilities. Instead of simply getting through the week, you begin moving toward things that excite you. And happiness starts showing up more naturally because your brain always has a reason to expect something good. Now here's the beautiful part. When you combine all three habits together, happiness stops feeling like something you have to chase. You start noticing your progress through small wins. You learn to fully experience the good moments that already exist, and you give yourself positive experiences to look forward to. None of these habits require more money, more success, or a completely different life. They simply change where your attention goes. And where your attention goes, your emotions usually follow.